people kind of like to think that there's something out there that we haven't discovered yet. Anything that's mysterious or unknown, people really flock to.
In general, the legend of the Bigfoot is popular because it's the missing link between ape and man.
There's a bit of truth to every joke, right? Maybe somebody has seen it once, maybe a long time ago. Maybe the story got blew up.
It almost becomes a source of identity for some people.
I would have to imagine that it's so popular just because everybody wants to believe in something that is out there that they can't explain, can't see.
It's honestly probably a couple of drunk rednecks that were, wandering in the forest one day and came upon a grizzly bear or a black bear or something.
How could you not believe? I mean, if unicorns are real, then the woodbugger has to be real, right?
Because it's Southwest Virginia and there's a lot of hillbillies and stuff.
I'd say it looks very much like me. I think we modeled this suit after a real woodbugger.
I feel like he's like an oversized human type of gorilla.
I'm like 9 foot tall and big and black and fuzzy.
If he did exist, he'd probably be like an ugly lumberjack. They're not totally the dad bod, like a little bigger than the dad bod, with like massive feet, like the kind of feet that you can even drive a car with.
Bigfoot is something known as a cryptid. It's an animal that hasn't been discovered by science yet, but many people have reported seeing. Different names for Bigfoot depend on where you live. In Florida, he's known as the skunk ape because he supposedly gives off this awful smell. In the Himalayas, this creature is known as the Yeti. In Canada, they call him Sasquatch a lot. And Americans call him Bigfoot.
Bigfoot has also been called Sasquatch, the Grassman, the Skunk Ape, the Yahoo, the Kentucky Wildman, Cherokee Devil.
Normally he's described as large, 7 to 9 feet, very hairy. Usually all you can see is the hair except the face. It's described as quite aggressive. There's been some stories of him actually tearing dogs apart. It's pretty elusive. It doesn't really like society very much.
The general depiction of Bigfoot is like a brown to black to like reddish color animal. Generally, the adults are between 6 and 9.5 feet tall and can weigh up to 800 pounds. They're also known to throw rocks. That's their way of letting people know that they're in their territory, and rather than just go in for the attack, it's a way of just letting people know that, hey, you're in my space, and I would really like for you to leave.
In general, they like to be left alone. So as far as a threat to society, it's almost non-existent.
Bigfoot's a harmless creature. Otherwise, there would be all kinds of people injured or killed from Bigfoot because there's not really a person that would put up any kind of challenge against an 8 foot tall, 700 pound creature.
Nobody is exactly sure where the legend of Bigfoot started. There's always been myths in ancient times about giant humans. We even see some of this referenced in the Bible. So probably there were some large humans that lived out in the woods. Maybe they were rejected by society, and so people saw them and weren't entirely sure what they were.
Some of the earliest evidence that I'm aware of is like the cave paintings on like the western side of the U.S. There's a lot of pictures of the Indians like fighting this big, tall, hairy man, and it's believed that that's a depiction of them finding Bigfoot.
Bigfoot's been reported in many places, even in America, but it would probably be in a really remote place, surrounded by forest. So the Pacific Northwest would be a good choice.
Reports of Bigfoot and their cousins had been anywhere from the Alps, the Himalayas, Virginia, up to Maine, down to Florida, Louisiana, but the biggest concentration of sightings have been in the Pacific Northwest. So looking for Bigfoot, the best thing to do is find somewhere that there's been a recent sighting or some kind of recent evidence. So then you'll start there and you'll just kind of go around in there and you'll look for where the animals are because Bigfoot has to eat, so they'll follow the animals. So first find a sighting, then find where the food is, and then if you can just do some calls. The first type of call is a whoop, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you now. The next type of call is a tree knock. So you just find like a big piece of wood, and then you just beat it against the tree. And then you'll wait for like 10 minutes and wait to see if there's a response. Then if you want to get different pitches, you can hit smaller trees.
The most famous photographic evidence of Bigfoot came from the 1960s. And there were these two men, Patterson and Gimlin. And Patterson was a well-known Bigfoot researcher. He had actually written a book about the abominable snowman. And they had gone on the trip to actually look for Bigfoot, though they didn't know they would find him. And according to Patterson and Gimlin, they saw a female Bigfoot by the riverside. And thankfully, they just happened to have a film camera with them. And they actually captured what they say is a few seconds of Bigfoot walking.
It was a female. There's like obvious breasts. That's one of the biggest things for proof that it is real, because at the time, even Hollywood didn't have that form-fitting of costumes and stuff, so would have had to have access to costumes that the big movie producers didn't even have access to.
But there's been a lot of debate about whether the film is actually true or not. Some people say that it's actually a film costume and that they just hired someone to dress up and then filmed it. With more iPhones and everyone today has a cell phone camera, you would think there would be an increase in sightings. However, as the population grows and people start encroaching on rural areas and the forest, it's likely there's actually a decrease in the Bigfoot population.
Because a lot of sightings are just heads poking from behind trees, so they're curious, but they're also very shy and timid. So I think it's more that they don't want to be found than that we can't necessarily go out and find them. Within the Bigfoot community, the general consensus is that they're like humans and they bury their dead.
However, if you consider the habitat that Bigfoot lives in and how quickly a body can decay, it's likely that the body just simply disappeared before anyone could find it.
Until a body of Bigfoot is found, whether it's dead or alive, then there's always going to be that skepticism. Ultimately, once they're found, they're going to start becoming like all the other animals and end up in zoos, and people will start hunting them.
A major point of debate among cryptozoologists is whether it's actually acceptable to kill an animal to prove that it exists. Because if an animal is so rare that it's been hidden for the entire human existence, then probably if you kill even one, that would be a major hurt on the population. Personally, I would say to kill one at the expense of science is a bridge too far.
It's one of those things I want it to be found, but at the same time, I kind of like knowing that they're being left alone in their natural environment.